Welcome to another DragonLance Saga review episode. It is Kirinor Guildember the 29th. My name is Adam, and today I'm going to give you my review of The Dragons of Chaos, edited by Margaret, Weis, and Tracy Hickman. I would like to take a moment and thank the DL Saga members and invite you to consider becoming a member. I'd also like to let you know that I've started a Patreon account. You're welcome to click the links in the description to learn more. You can even pick up Dragonlance gaming materials using my affiliate links. Now, this is my perspective only. If you have thoughts or disagree with mine, I invite you to share them in YouTube chat or in the comments below if you're watching this after it's been live. So this is going to be a pre-written review of all of the different stories and then basically a wrap up. If you guys want to throw anything in live chat, if you happen to be catching this live, I didn't really give anyone any notice, so I'm not surprised if no one's here. But if you want to put comments in the chat, then we'll just sort of riff a little bit afterward. And that's kind of how these things run. So let's get into it, shall we? So Eyes of Chaos by Sue Weinlein Cook is the first story here. And this story is about a blue dragon named Clamor who suffered from PTSD after fighting with her late rider, Sir Jerne Stormcrown, in the Abyss during the Chaos War. Jerne leapt off her back to attack a Daemon Warrior atop his fire-breathing dragon, and they both plummeted to their doom. Clamor fought the fire dragon after it clawed her leg, letting chaos seep into her and corrupt her. She witnessed the end of the Chaos War and flew back to the Kharolis Mountains, tormenting the elves and ogres around there, going village to village, taking souls to placate the chaos that was poisoning her. She felt tremendous guilt about her rider's death and wanted to bring honor to his name in his absence. But inside, she knew it was not honorable. In the end, she let death come to her as elves and ogres teamed up to kill her. She saw Jerne in a river calling to her, and she went to him in death. As I write this, it's incredibly more sad than reading the story. And knowing about the War of Souls, that wasn't a thing when this was originally written, I know that her soul will not find Jerne in death, and that is even sadder. But I enjoyed the short story nonetheless. It's always nice to get a perspective of the evil dragons and their riders. We almost always get good dragons references. So that's what I really love about Dragonlance, is the balance. And we get to, hear from all sides. Okay, the second story is called The Noble Folly by Mark Antony. This was another sad tale. A knight of Takhisis named Cal was headed up to meet the dragon of Redstone to regain his glory after the vision left him with the gods at the end of the Chaos War. He came upon a knight of the Rose named Brynn, who was blinded and was also headed to the dragon of Redstone to slay it, proving his honor, and that, hopefully, would bring Paladine back. The knights share a repast, and Cal left to find the dragon. On his way up the mountain, he loosed a boulder, which crushed his leg and started an avalanche. Brynn found him and helped him. They decided to go up the mountain together. Cal would try to join with the dragon, and if he refused, Brynn would slay it. It seemed the blind and crippled needed each other. On the way up the mountain, we learned about their backstories. Cal was a beggar before Ariakan, and he is afraid that he had never actually had honor at all. He just had the vision, and with that, only the memories of those that he killed. Brynn ran from battle and only saw the dead and horrors of war in his eyes, so he blinded himself. They finally reached the summit and began attacking what they believed was the dragon, only to have it revealed as a stone formation that looked like a dragon from a distance. Then Brynn believed he needed to fight Cal for his honor, and Cal wanted none of it. Brynn eventually killed himself by using Cal inadvertently and thanked him. Cal walked away with the thought that without the gods, we are left to our own devices, to suffer or find meaning as we will. It's a devastating idea, yet the reality I believe we all share in this real life. We are what we choose to be, as the Iron Giant film tells us. And I personally love that notion. All right, the next story is The Lessons of the Land by Linda P. Baker. I don't understand this short story. It leads up to something interesting, then just stops. Caloran is the Senator Idron's assistant and met up with renegades who were operating with the Tessico, the group Tessiel, a group that Alhana Starbreeze and Porthios led in Quolinisty as resistance fighters to the Dark Knights. He was supposed to meet with Porthios, but the Dark Knights attacked. He was terrified and ran for his life. He stumbled his way through the forest back to the camp where the rest of the survivors were leaving. He demanded to know about Idron, but they said he was captured. They were leaving to meet with Porthios. Caloran went after Idron with a Khagonisty named Dariel, who also survived the Dark Knight attack. They initially hated each other, but slowly grew to respect each other as they snuck into the camp to rescue Idron and were caught. It turned out that Idron was working with the Dark Knights to save Quellenost in return for Porthios' life. This news shocked Dariel and Caloran, and they lit the tent on fire to escape. They evaded the Dark Knights as the fire spread and came to terms with their feelings about each other. Then they started to untie their bonds, and the story ended. Abruptly. Just like that. They did not return and share the news about the traitorous senator. They didn't get recaptured. Nothing. I mean, the story up to this point was building into a very interesting narrative. It's so aggravating. I don't even understand the point. Was the point just to let us know that the elves were in on the Dark Knight's invasion? Because we already knew that from other books. So what's the exact point of this short story? I don't understand it. It's so frustrating. Hey, Azilla Storella? Did I say that right? Thanks for tuning in. All right, the next one is The Son of Huma by Richard A. Knack, nonetheless. Wow, this was a wild story I did not expect. Lord Stoddard is fighting a chaos dragon, which defeats him and most of his men. In true Knack fashion, he passes out, thinking he would be killed by the chaos dragon. He wakes up nearly healed fully to his men and a young boy. His men tell him the dragon defeated them and is headed to the nearby town. The young boy says he is Liam of Eldor, Huma's son. He said that Paladine wouldn't let Huma intervene in mortal affairs until Chaos was released, and then his son, the product of his and the Silver Dragon Heart's union, who dwelt in the heavens, also came to kill the Chaos Dragon. Clearly, no one believes him, and he insists he has an original Dragonlance and needs to be allowed to fight. The knights refuse, and the only dragon left is a wounded bronze named Razor. Stoddard claims the lance from Liam and mounts Razor, flying to the town to intercept the Chaos Dragon. They're ambushed by the dragon, and Razor dies, while Stoddard once again passes out, only to waken with Liam over him in ancient Knight of the Crown armor. He takes the lance, telling Stoddard that he has to do this. He rides off on his massive steed toward the dragon, who warps reality the closer you are to it. Liam ends up in the air, falling, and once he hits the ground, transforms into a silver dragon and hurls the Dragonlance at the Chaos Dragon. He then flies into it, pushing the lance deeper when lightning strikes the Chaos Dragon over and over again until it explodes. Stoddard couldn't believe what he witnessed, but he was too weak to investigate. He was discovered by the town militia, who brought the corpse of the young boy. They said that he rode the bronze dragon and lightning killed the Chaos Dragon, but Stoddard knew better. He witnessed a miracle and the son of Huma fulfilling his destiny. This story reminded me of being a child myself and wanting to be able to worship Paladine like a Knight of Solamnia. I wanted so desperately to have some grand destiny or purpose, one that I found in being a husband and father, one that's much messier than any hero's mythical life, but one that I wouldn't trade for anything. All right, the next story is Personal by Kevin T. Stein. This was an abruptly ended short story as well, and equally unsatisfying. It began with an assassin being charged by a cleric of Takhisis to kill a thief. The charge was a black dragon who hired two assassins unknown to the cleric to help him. He monologued about whether an assassin cannot have a personal life in the target or it always ended badly. This is a foreshadow. He observes the thief meet up with two other assassins and tells them to find the black dragon and kill him. Then he too was hired by a cleric of Takhisis. The black dragon was double-crossed. The two assassins had dragonbane weapons. The black dragon tasked his assassins to kill and collect the weapons for him, and he chased down the thief. He defeated him, and just before killing him, the thief said to kill him like he did his brother. Now, this became personal, and the black dragon didn't kill him. Just returned to his assassins to collect the dragonbane's weapons and presumably off to kill the evil cleric. That was the whole tale, making me want more, but not actually satisfying me at all. This is the second story where an evil creature walks away from a kill because of personal feelings. This does not seem to be consistent with Dragonlance lore. Evil is supposed to feed on itself, not learn from itself. It's very frustrating to be stuck in a story like this. All right. Hey, Chris, how you doing, man? The Dragon's Eye by Adam Lesh. This was a very odd short story that had a bunch of twists that were not properly set up or executed. An elf is approached by a Thewar dwarf to retrieve a dragon's eye, a gem from Ashton Manor, and deliver it to him to get his wife back. The elf is a warrior who used to have magic before the Chaos War. He knows Ashton Manor is avoided by thieves and the like, so getting the gem will be difficult. Only, it really isn't. This elf warrior flies through every challenge. He comes across a basilisk and deals with it, a few traps, no problem. A giant spider, killed. Though he is poisoned, it doesn't seem to actually affect him at all. Then he faces off against an odd-looking human guardian of the eye who can communicate telepathically to him. It doesn't explain what this being is really, so there's no real threat, and the elf defeats him readily. He then takes the dragon's eye and returns to Palanthas and works his way to the Thieves' Guild. He gets attacked by a guard and defeats him, then enters the guild to discover a chaos spawn holding his wife hostage. He coated the gem with paralytic poison so the chaos spawn drops instantly. Then it's revealed an ogre is his ally in the guild, and Mara, his wife, is a man and his companion. They're all Dragonsbane and are assigned to hunt down chaos. They're taking this one to the Tower of High Sorcery for inspection, but the elf is returning the eye because he isn't a thief. What? It's so odd. Why even get the gem? Why not just poison anything and give that to the chaos spawn? Why is there no actual dragon in the story about dragons of chaos? It's so aggravating. This whole story was because it could have been so great. That's what I think makes me so angry. This could have been a brilliant story if it just would have gone through a couple more drafts. But instead, it's just like pop, 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 had to get to the end. And then you're done and you're like, wait, what was the point of that? It's like eating sugary cereal. You feel great when you're eating it, but then afterward you just kind of like feel kind of gross and there's no actual nutritional benefit and you're just sort of left wanting something substantive. That's this story. Actually, that's a couple of the stories in this collection. All right, the next story is called Dragon Fear by Terry McLaren. This was actually a bit of a fun story. It's about a town which is preparing for their mid-year day festival, as strangers slowly enter the town, making a fuss about being refugees from neighboring towns, as dragons have attacked and killed everyone. They stir up the town residents so that they're all ready to abandon their homes and flee into the mountain caves nearby until the dragon passes by. The innkeeper doesn't want them to leave as he has a batch of beer near ready for the festival and sees an opportunity. He could lead everyone to the cellars to safety, will be seen as a hero, and then he can charge more for his ale the following day during the festival. He leads everyone to the cellars, and the newcomers lock them in. It turns out there was no dragon. The nearby town just ran out of ale during their celebration, and this group, known as the Cobbin Brothers, is coming to rob the town of their ale. The innkeeper's daughter even takes the innkeeper's ale recipe as dowry and leaves with one of them. It's a great way to capitalize on fear and dragons in a time when you would be foolish not to listen to this type of paranoia. Little weird that there's no actual dragons in the Dragon Anthology story, but they were a looming presence throughout the story, and so I sort of forgive it. And I really enjoyed the twist that it was all a lie just to rob them. Of their beer, no less. All right, the next one's called Tavern Tales by Gene Rabe. This was a really great palate cleansing story. It had nothing to do with dragons, but it was during the battle in the Abyss, and Maquesta Carthon and crew were taking to the Blood Sea to transport supplies to the Minotaur Isles. The gnome Lendl had his machine below and was complaining about hearing tales about the end of the world in a tavern and that they shouldn't leave to the Blood Sea Isles. Mac was having none of it, and they set sail. They immediately encountered a massive storm, and this is where the story felt real. Now, I have read a lot of classic literature about sailing and storms, and this felt as genuine as any of them. They battled a storm and are losing the Parishon as they abandon ship. Mac is tossed into the ocean and Koff is going after her. Lendl is going below decks to get his machine. The storm seems to die out after Mac is saved, and they all reboard the ship to see a huge gaping hole in the ocean like a waterfall. They man the oars to try to get around it, but the storm and current is too much. They end up being propelled across it by the gnome's machine and live to sail another day. They take another job at the complaint of Lendl, who heard about another tavern tale they should listen to. This was the story. It was great fun having Jean Rabe write an interesting tale, and to return to Maquesta was great. We don't get a lot of good sailing stories, but this was definitely one of them. And the strength of this story, just to sort of put a fine point on it, was the ocean. It was just the storm itself. It wasn't like a monster trying to kill them or chaos coming up from the Blood Sea. It was just a really terrible storm, and how just that, the power, the elemental power of the planet itself, is enough to destroy you, and how terrifying being in the open sea is during a storm. It's just, it sent chills down my spine after having read like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Robinson Crusoe, just all sorts of classic sailor stories, the Sea Wolf, Old Man in the Sea, just one after another, and really appreciating the majesty of nature. And then to see it in Dragonlance just sort of fed back to me again, I loved it. I thought it was really great. And I don't like a lot of Jean Rabe's writing, but her short stories are good. They really are, so give it a chance. All right, the next one's called The Dragon's Well by Janet Pack. This story kills me. I'm both angry and sad. It's about a really old man who used to be a town weaver, but in his advanced age has started talking about dragons leading him to water. He digs massive holes all around town. The town is in a massive drought and desperately needs water. Everyone thinks this man is crazy, but the town crier decides to follow him one day and reports to the mayor that the old man has found mud. Apparently, someone fell in one of his wells and got hurt, and he demanded satisfaction. So the crier goes to tell the old man that his dragons are in the town square, and they see him approaching and start complaining. The old man says that they should ban him from town. The hurt man says that they should ban the old man from town. The old man simply walks away to go dig some more. He had a vision of dragons telling him finally where to find the water, and the following day he goes to find it. He starts digging, and the townspeople gather at the top of the well and stone the man. The mayor runs up to him, cradles him in the hole. The old man says that he's found water like the dragon said he would, and then dies in the mayor's arms. The mayor tells everyone that he found water, but that no one can drink it now, since it's tainted with the blood of the old man. This reminds me of MAGA. They are actively supporting leaders who are hurting them with their own policies, making everyone else suffer in addition to them. Their stupidity is hurting all Americans, just like this town hurting this one old man who is trying to help them. And when he comes with help, it's too late because they're too stupid to realize it. They just want to hurt the old man. That is exactly what MAGA is. They're so upset with the pathetic nature of their own lives, they have to attack everyone else, even those who are actively trying to help them. And so the people that they support are just trolls who don't know how to do anything. Hence the state of the world we're in. Too real, that story. The Magnificent Two by Nick Donahoe is the next one. This was a delightful story about a dragon who hid his hoard on a mountain and a wandering hero who set to find it. He was met at an inn by ruffians who wanted to stop him, but he defeated them with the aid of a woman. She wanted to go with him for the money. He refused and knocked her out, like actually punched her in the face. Then he left and she ended up following. She needed him need him in the groin, turning the tables, and they ended up traveling together for a little while as ruffians followed them both. They let off some black powder, and then a landslide ensued. Then he killed all of the ruffians as they left from out of the dust. She was surprised, but decided to continue on as they found a town. Turns out, she's actually the sheriff of this town and wanted to hire him to find the treasure and kill the dragon who's rumored to come and get it. They travel together, finding the markers to the cave and enter it. He has her go back to town to get a wagon, and he's confronted by the dragon. She returns to use his powder to blow the dragon out of the cavern and wipe its memory. The powder worked, and she tells him that he is not leaving with the treasure. The townspeople are outside the cavern and want it because it's theirs. He tells them that they can have it, and she offers him a job. He reluctantly accepts, and the tale ends. They have a great back and forth, and the author did a great job of portraying ne'er-do-well personalities reluctantly working together, and even suggesting a possible connection down the line. It was more complex than I'm used to for short stories, and it was well worth the time reading it. It actually reminded me of Raiders of the Lost Ark, the connection that Marianne and Indiana Jones have. All right. At the beginning of that, not the romantic end. Okay, so there is another shore, Upon the Other Side by Roger E. Moore. Wow, what a story. It starts with Chaos roaming the open sea and comes across a fishing boat with 2 people in it. They are returning to Palanthas when the fire giant crosses them. It burns a half-elf named Gullwing, and he passes out from the pain, sleeping the whole day. When he awakes, he and his captain Heron sail into Palanthas, but everything's different. The moon looks like an eye. Sails all have eyes on them. The rocks that split in the cataclysm near the port weren't split, and there's an old man chained to them. They go into port and try to pay with steel, and they're refused. Nothing is as it was. People mention Dominion of Ergoth, and the coins have a great eye on one side and a whole Ansalon, not a sundered one, on the other, as if the cataclysm never happened. Then they get into a tavern and meet a dwarf slave with no hands. He speaks Kenderspeak a little and Salamnic. They talk a bit and pay with stolen coins, then leave. They discover they're in the same year 383, but it is IT, not AC. They ask what that means, and they say Istar triumphant. The king priest fought the gods and won. The cataclysm never happened. Not sure how they got here to this timeline, they return to the inn and the dwarf tells them that they never should have come here. They relay their story about the fire giant and their timeline, and the dwarf starts to respond when guards come and arrest them all. In their cell, the dwarf relays that the gods were made mortal by the king priest and were enslaved. He breaks them out, and they all race to their ship to leave the mainland. The dwarf stops at the old man that they saw when they were coming in and asks for the gem. Then he actually gets the gray gem from the old man, and the sailors realize the dwarf is Reorx and the old man is Fizban. Reorx wants to be called Dugan as he's no longer a god, and they sail for the Irda Island. Dugan believes that Irda might have broken the gray gem in their timeline, releasing chaos. That is how they were teleported here. Perhaps the Irda can help them return home. They arrive only to find the God King, the former king priest, waiting for them. He got here first and killed all of the Irda. The half-elf makes a deal to return the gray gem to the God King if he leaves them in peace. He agrees and takes the gray gem and leaves. He told the God King to open the gray gem, and when he returned to Istar, he did just that. Chaos started to destroy the world after killing the God King. Reorx regained some of his power and returned to the sailors to their own timeline. It seems Chaos sent them to unleash him in another timeline, which would happen in all timelines, so all Krynns would be destroyed. It's a terrifying notion that fits perfectly with Dragonlance and their multiple timeline situations. I really enjoyed this short story and the presentation of an Istar Triumphant alternate timeline. It's really cool. All right. The next short story is The First Gully Dwarf Resistance by Chris Pearson. This is set in Karagoth with the Dark Knights and Tarmac trying to root out the resistance that has been eluding them. They placed the city on lockdown until they could find them, and on one patrol they were ambushed by gully dwarves who infected many of the Tarmac and Knights with some illness after biting them in an ambush. The Dark Knights captured one of the gully dwarves and tried to interrogate them to no avail. Then they decided they should let him go and have him inadvertently lead them to their hideout, which he did. Once inside, they cornered the High Murph, as this is the Murph clan, and finally got some information out of him about where the Red Robe who hired the Gully Dwarves for the Resistance lived. They told him about a secret entrance in a house on a hill, and you had to pull a blue book on the third shelf to enter it. When the Dark Knights arrived, they pulled the third book and remembered immediately that Gully Dwarves can't count past 2. It was a trap that started a massive fireball and started burning the Dark Knights home. It was revealed the wizard was the High Murph, and as they polymorphed the rest of the clan into their natural forms, the lone Gully Dwarf was rewarded with a shiny copper coin. This was a great short story about using Gully Dwarfs as resistance fighters in a fun and creative way. It gave great insight into the Dark Knight's ranks and hierarchy while making them all feel like individuals with individual motivations. The Gully Dwarf bits were pretty humorous, but I wouldn't go so far as to say they were funny. They did bring a needed levity to the tale, however. All right, the next short story is called The Star Shard by Jeff Grubb. This was a bit of a science fiction story. The two gnome friends are watching the night sky as a light streaks out of the sky and falls to Krynn. They pontificate on whether the gods are from the stars and if the meteor is part of the gods as they go to retrieve it. They find a piece that is green and throbbing with light, but it's not an intelligently crafted shape. One gnome takes it and builds a prediction machine. He tests it daily with his friend, who is growing jealous of his success, but still supportive. And the machine seems to be sapping the life of the gnome inventor. The machine predicts coin flips, then weather, and as it continues to be correct, the community starts to gather for the predictions. The friends are having dreams which are scary. One insists he continues to build, and the other sees Takesis. Finally, the prediction leads to the machine exploding and burning the town down, and the friend collects the star shard and buries it, protecting others from the Dark Queen's machinations. His inventor friend goes back to his regular life, and the town rebuilds. It actually reminds me of an almost Lovecraftian story. I like how intimate it is, really between two friends who are just worried about their own success, but also their friendship. This star shard also seems to be more part of chaos than Takesis, but it was a fun story nonetheless. All right, the next one. We're nearing the end here. Master Tall and Master Small by Margaret Weis and Dawn Perrin. This was a fantastic tale that I've read before. I believe in one of the member readings from a Dragon magazine. In any case, it's about a town of Goodland, not Goodlund, where the people love playing chess and are renowned all around the region for it. One day, 2 men come into town, one tall and one small, and they say they would like to play chess. And on the morrow, anyone who would dare play against them could come and win the chess set if they beat them. The set itself is a thing of wonder, beauty beyond imagination. The fee to play was 1 steel piece, and everyone tried, but no one could beat them. Then finally a man named Blackshanks came into town to play and beat them, demanding the chess set. The tall and small men went into the tent and came out, one dressed as a knight of Salamnia, and the other ready to weave a spell as Blackshanks began to take his true form as a black dragon. The tall one started to cast a spell to slow the transformation as the small one attacked. They eventually defeated the dragon, who was the last in the family line of a black dragon lineage dating back to the Third Dragon War. The tall man revealed himself to be a silver dragon, and they left the town after having succeeded in doing what they planned. They had to lure the black dragon out of its lair with chess. They then gave the chess set minus the black dragon piece as they left town to the mayor. It's a fun story that makes you think creatively about how to defeat your foes. Why meet them on their own turf when you can trick them into coming to you? It's pretty interesting. All right, so the last story is called Ice Wall by Douglas Niles. I don't know what I expected with this short story, but I didn't expect this. This is about a great white dragon named Kharolis, who fought against Huma in the Third Dragon War. When the evil dragons were defeated, he was allowed to remain sleeping on Krynn by Takhisis. Now, thousands of years later, before the War of the Lance, Carrie saw Sleetix, or Sleet, flying around. He approached her, and she summoned him to the Lords of Doom for Takhisis' coming war, sharing information about the good dragon eggs keeping them out of the war, but Kharolis saw what the Dragonlances did in the Third Dragon War and wanted nothing to do with another war for Takhisis. Sleet left, and in time, Kharolis went hunting and saw a seal diving into a hole in the ice. He stuck his head in and fell into a trap. A collar closed around his neck, and the Dragon High Lord Salakarn stood there in his magical armor warmed by the sun, commanding Kharolis to be his mount. Kharolis tried to kill him, but each time more painful agony was racked upon him by the collar. He soon relented, and they flew around Icewall, getting to know each other and hunting. They began to travel toward the Lords of Doom, and on one landing, Kharolis injured his wing. While they waited, a massive storm hit, and Salakarn couldn't get his armor to recharge its heat with the sun, and ended up freezing to death and dying. Kharolis briefly mourned him before the collar dropped off his neck, and he returned to Icewall while it was still his. I thought they might see battle, or learn to trust one another, or something, but it just ended with a frozen High Lord, and a freed dragon. Kinda ended with a whimper. As the last story in this Chaos War trilogy, I was left wondering why there weren't more Chaos War... I'm sorry, it wasn't a Chaos War trilogy. In this Chaos War anthology. I was left wondering why there weren't more Chaos War stories, and why this collection was even named as it was in the absence of them. I mean, it's not even that there weren't Chaos Dragon stories. There weren't all dragon stories in the first place. So what the hell? If it's just an anthology, then just say it's a Dragonlance anthology, or give it a name that does not belie the contents. Anyway, that's what I thought. All right, you're only halfway through this. That's all right. I've just been reading for 100 pages a day and just blow through them. All right, so you've been critical of Knack in the past as being overrated compared to Pearson and others, but this story was great. I really liked the story about Huma's son, but I'm really tired of Knack's insistence on having every one of his heroes in his stories pass out near death and wake up being healed by someone. Every story he writes has that. It's crazy. I don't understand it. I mean, not literally every story. I think there's like 2 stories I've read of his that don't have it, but every other story has it. It's like, why are you doing this? And why are you so stuck on Kaz and Huma? You can write about anything. You're only writing about those 2 characters, and it just blows my mind. I mean, his next short story that's going to be with Dragonlance Nexus, I believe, is going to be about Magius. But even then, it's still the same trio from The Legend of Huma, his first full novel. So what the crap? Anyway, it was well written, and it was fun, and it got me in the feels. So I did enjoy it, and I do like his writing. It's just he has tropes that he falls down. Let's see. We have half elves and half ogres, but half dragon was awesome. Well, the half dragon was only... I mean, because he was never mortal, right? Like, he was like in the dragon's womb, I guess, when it was summoned up to earth, to the heavens by the gods, by Paladine, and he sort of was raised in the heavens. So I don't even know if it was half dragon or just a mystical being. like it doesn't really, in my opinion, clarify exactly what the son of Huma was, other than just being the progeny of Huma and Hart. But he did turn into a silver dragon, so I don't know if he's like a dragon that just takes human form. I don't know. Like, the whole thing was a little wonky. Let's see. The story about the dragon eye was disappointing, and why was a chaos spawn interested in anything but destruction and chaos? Yeah, it's weird. It was like the chaos spawn was a crime lord or something. But why? That's not what they do. At least that's not what we've been presented historically as what they do. Your favorite of these short stories are often the ones they revisit previously seen characters like Mequesta. Yeah, I enjoyed the Mequesta one a lot. Naval combat's really fun in D&D. The Nexus did a great job with their latest NAC collaboration, and you're going to use it in your house campaign. That's cool. Yeah, I want to do a oversea campaign, and in my Tyranny of Dragons, there's going to be some seafaring that should be pretty interesting and fun. Ninja Joe, how you doing, man? Thanks for tuning in. You're hoping up to get enough strength to do a Dragonlance stream. Guess you heard the news that they may restart the attempt to make a Dragonlance TV show. That's conjecture by everyone. No one said anything. It's frustrating because literally 2 photos were posted, or maybe just 1 photo was posted, being shared by a bunch of different people. But they never said anything. So I know as fans, we want the TV show back, but in my heart of hearts, I have a feeling it's just going to be another novel or another series or maybe a module or something. I really don't think it's going to be the TV series. I want to be wrong. I want a TV series, but there's been literally no announcement, no suggestion, nothing. Just 1 single photo. That's it. That everyone is jumping on saying, it's a TV show, it's coming back. Ah! All right, just simmer down. Let's wait till we actually hear something, anything, other than the current D&D administration wants Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman to come in, and they brought Maganello. That's all we know so far. All right. Hi, Joe. Hope you're feeling well. Let's see. The Zealots are the same as the Theocrats and Solace. Oh, for sure. You're pretty sure they're considering a TV show now. I don't know. I hope so, but we don't know. So the King Priest and Fissidalis are so different after all. Aren't so different. Hey, Soulforge, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in. The King Priest, yeah, no, they're not different at all. The King Priest kept him around. So, we have Chris Pearson's writing about the inner working mind of the King Priest, but everything presented, he's a megalomaniac. He's a bit of an insane, soulless human, he's just like one of those types. You picked one of the young adult Dragonlance books at the library this week. Oh, that'd be fun. The Chaos Dragon era, 5th Age mostly. Yeah, it's definitely, it's the precursor to the 5th Age. So it's everything leading up to the very edge of the 5th Age. And then there's going to be some remnant chaos forces after the 5th Age. But by the time the Dragon Overlords take control, it's all been wiped out. You've always felt that certain racial limitations weren't to be taken too literally. A gully dwarf can occasionally count higher than 2. A gnome can make something that works. That's just you. Well, in the context of a story, sure. In the context of the role-playing game, not sure. But you can do anything you want in your home campaigns. So, break conventions all you want if that's what your players want to do. I like the limitations because Gary Gygax always believed the role-playing games, you're supposed to want to be human because of the limitations of other races. And so that's why he sort of made those very strict level caps and class caps or restrictions. So I don't know if the story was featured in the Dragon magazine or if it was like a best of anthology that I read and reviewed, or I've read so many of these stories that it's hard for me to place exactly where I read them before. All I know is I've definitely read it before and reviewed it before for someone online. And it's either members only or it's part of a different anthology collection that I'd already reviewed. All right, so a white dragon awaking after thousands of years, not sure of his allegiances, reminds you of the Transformers character Jetfire. I have no idea what you're talking about. Sorry, I don't know that at all. You always wondered who had the main line to write Dragonlance stories during that era, if they had jobbers who didn't even care about the material. Yeah, I don't know. In the 5th Age, they kind of did whatever they wanted, you know? Kaz and Huma are his characters, kind of like Perez and Astrid will be yours. No, I get that, but he keeps going back to that pool over and over and over and over and over again. And for people who love those characters, that's awesome. But I don't know. It's just the same tropes over and over again. By the way, look up Vagarus, the Riven Realms, and tell me if you couldn't make that as a game with Dragonlance. I'll have to check that out. I'm not familiar. You wonder what will happen with the original companies in the alternative timeline with the King Priest. I don't see them as doing anything. You mean the original companions, I'm assuming you're meaning? Most of the demi-races were wiped out in that alternate timeline, completely decimated and killed. I'm going to do a video about it because I think it's so interesting. But most of the companions were, most of the demi-races were outright slaughtered. The gods were brought low. Kender were completely exterminated. So I don't see Flint being around. Anyone who would have stood up against the power of the King Priest would have been outright murdered. Only people who went along with his insanity were allowed to live. And so it would have been, 350 years and the King Priest wasn't overthrown. And that's when the companions had all grown up and done their War of the Lands thing. So clearly, it didn't happen, and they couldn't stand up against the Almighty. Not even the gods stood up against the King Priest of Istar in that alternate timeline, but it was because the King Priest used the power of the Grey Gem. And so he was using chaos to overthrow, which is why he was able to do it. But that's also why chaos destroyed the King Priest when chaos was unleashed. So the King Priest just got high on his own supply and thought that, oh, well, I'm the God King. I can destroy and control chaos. And that's where he was decimated. It's a really interesting alternate timeline that I can't wait to do a little story about or a little video about. I might try to do it next this coming week because it's so interesting. The only problem is whenever I do these weekly videos, the sort of lore setting videos, if I don't have imagery, I tend to stay away from the idea of making the video because I don't know what to throw in the visual, Like I want to tell the story, but I want visuals to support the story. And if I don't have them, it makes it very difficult. So I'll figure something out because I really want to tell that alternate timeline story because it's really fascinating to me. But what are you going to do? All right, you'll take any video game of Dragonlance. We have a bunch of them, and they're not all good. All right, well, that's going to do it for my review of the Dragons of Chaos, edited by Margaret, Weis, and Tracy Hickman. What did you think of the anthology? Do you want any more Chaos Wars short stories? And finally, are these dragon anthologies named appropriately? Feel free to email me at info@dlsaga.com or leave a comment below. My next my next anthology is going to be Dragons of Time. I'll start that tomorrow. I usually read about 100 pages a day. And so I'll have that for you probably on Monday. Maybe not Monday because Mondays are pretty busy for me. Probably Monday or Tuesday, most likely Tuesday. So look forward to that. I would like to thank my patron, Chris Androu. I'd like to take a moment and remind you all to subscribe to this YouTube channel, ring the bell to get notified about upcoming videos, and click the like button. This all goes to help other Dragonlance fans learn about this channel and its content. Once again, I would like to let you know that I've started a Patreon account. If you appreciate the various projects I produce, I would like to invite you to consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Thank you for your consideration. This channel is all about celebrating the wonderful world of the Dragonlance Saga, and I hope you'll join me in that celebration. Thank you for watching. This has been Adam with Dragonlance Saga, and until next time, Slanjavar.